I'm Coach Mandy, and I am really excited to share with you guys a special friend that's willing to come down and do this with me today and speak to each one of you guys about chronic pain and how he manages his chronic pain. And this is my friend Pete.
Hi.
One of the things I love and adore the most about you, all the years that I've known you, I've only seen you irritable one time. Just over the years, I've always just loved the way that you are so joyful and kind to people. Live your life with chronic pain, and so I look up to you.
And vice versa.
Oh.
I'm always happy to see you because you're so happy and funny. And
So tell me about your diagnosis.
okay, well, my diagnosis was a little non-specific because they couldn't really figure out what was going on with me. It was more like ruling things out for the first couple of years. Basically, they generalized it as degenerative joint disease, and what happened physically was that all the articular cartilage lining my knees and then much later my hips detached from the bone, which didn't cause me any immediate pain or discomfort, but it did cause my immune system to see all of that as foreign or damaged. So from the age of 15 to 17, I went from normal knees to 85% bone on bone with bone spurs and osteophytes and things that normally take decades to developed in 3 years with me. It's generalized as degenerative joint disease, but it's definitely genetic.
It started young. You've been dealing with this for a long time.
I don't remember a lot of not dealing with it, honestly. It has encompassed everything, it seems.
It does, yeah. How does pain affect your life?
Of doing. Like, there's a big reason why I wanted to go through with having my hips replaced was because of my son. He was just starting to walk at the time, and I wanted to be able to keep up with him. So pain affects my life that way, and my mood. You know, when I'm in a lot of pain, I can definitely be irritable or short, kind of curt with people, or completely isolate myself.
Me too.
Rather than have to like worry about if I'm going to be short or curt with someone, I just stay home.
You mentioned bouts of depression, and I'd love to hear a little bit about that too. I think something that we should create is kind of an awareness that depression can and often does come with surgery and just chronic pain in general.
I would say that chronic pain causes depression. This was a
Okay.
group of pain management specialists in Anchorage, and they wanted to put me on antidepressants, and I didn't feel like I had depression. I felt like sometimes I would just be down for a week or 2 weeks, and it would usually correlate with when I was in a lot of pain or limitations that were developing, like losing the ability to do something that I could do my whole life. But I never felt like I was a depressed person.
Right.
I just felt like I was dealing with what was going on, so I didn't want to be on antidepressants because I felt like if it's something that I can figure out how to cope with on my own, I don't want to take these medications that I don't know exactly what they're doing to me or affecting my brain. And so I didn't for a long time, and it wasn't actually until I think a couple of years ago that I finally started a low antidepressant, because it was just the pain and stuff wasn't so bad, but the depression was still coming and going. So I don't know what started first.
Right.
I would definitely say that depression has been a part of my life because of the pain. It worked out as isolation and isolating myself, staying home. I ended up being like, I had a house, but I lived in my room, you know, like TV, everything that would normally be in the living room was in the bedroom, and that's just where I stayed. And you know, I didn't even like see that for what it was until later.
Yeah. And you also talked about limitations career-wise.
I've definitely felt limited as far as not being able to work. Like, I had a few jobs when I was younger, and just like commercial fishing. And as my pain and my limitations grew, I couldn't work. I remember actually I was working the first time my knees ever did this thing where every now and then they would swell really big. Like, they'd swell so big that I couldn't actually bend them because they were already like stretched out to the max. That happened the first time while I was at work, and that was actually the last job I had. I don't have really any experience in the workforce, and I feel that that has also affected me socially, because when I meet people, I'm around guys, they're always talking about their jobs or the physical things that they're doing, and I don't I don't really have ways to relate to that.
Yeah.
You know, so I feel like my ability to connect with people is also limited.
Because you do truly know how it limits you and how it's impacted you, but you've also triumphed in your life in a lot of different ways. So I would have to make a decision every day that the pain and suffering I would go through that day would make me stronger for tomorrow.
Yeah.
So making a decision, which is a big part of, like, you know, healing.
I feel like the times where I was more depressed or more isolated were the times I forgot to do that. You know, life would build up or the pain would build up and I would just be distracted from doing that. That's a very important part of my day is, you know, to know that I'm
each
growing.
day. So not just, because when I work one-on-one with people, they have this pivotal moment where they make a decision, like a big one, like, I'm just going to be okay no matter what happens. You're saying that you have to make that decision almost daily.
Well, I agree with the first part because I came to that point also, but in my case, and I'm sure in many people's cases, it's not like a set thing. There are going to be new limitations, new challenges, your disease is going to progress. So I did that, but also I learned later after more things were happening or more limitations were surfacing that I needed to make it a daily thing because to decide on the whole thing at once and just be like, yeah, I'm going to do that. That can be a little overwhelming and not realistic for me. Make it more of a daily thing.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense to me.
I think what drove that is whenever I was first going to the Shriners Children's Hospital like yearly and they were trying to figure out what was going on. The main thing that I wanted was, because they didn't know what was going on with me, they had no name for it or anything like that, but I knew that I wasn't special. There had to be plenty of other people or children with this issue, and I just wanted what happened to me the time they spent ruling things out to maybe make this shorter and easier to deal with for anyone after me. And that helped me a lot. So what I realized is that I wanted to turn all of that negative stuff that I felt into positives because it made it so much lighter and easier to deal with. And it was still difficult, but I kind of translated that from helping other people into just making myself stronger.
Yeah, you have a huge heart. That's something to be proud of. Someone to be going through something so big in their life and it's just all encompassing, and then to be thinking, well, you know, how can this affect others, or how can I use this to help others, just shows your heart. What medical procedures have you tried?
First, I think I was 17 and I had bilateral arthroscopic debridement and release, which is where they used the cameras and the tools and went into my knees and got all the debris, all the loose bodies and parts that were floating around out. Our release was where there's a sheath that covers, because muscle doesn't connect straight to bone, it kind of connects to the sheath, and they cut a hole in that to kind of, so that hole would fill with scar tissue and it would relieve some tension on my kneecap. So they did that to both knees. My next surgery was total knee replacements when I was 25 at the same time, which was wildly successful in my eyes. Woke up literally from surgery the next day, like as soon as the femoral block they gave me wore off. Like I was in a lot of pain, but it was completely different pain. And the pain that I had all day, every day, that like I kind of equated to a few people who had asked me, it's like when you're wearing your glasses and you forget that they're there, but they're there. It's like that pain would go, unless I was hurting specifically or did something that like really hurt me, it was always there but kind of in the background. That was gone. And then recently I had my left hip replaced in June and my right hip replaced in last October. And those have gone well also. In between all the surgeries, I took medications for inflammation, did a few steroid injections in my hips, but what helped me, I think, the most as far as physically just kind of make things better was physical therapy, because inactivity kind of just makes things worse, and I didn't learn that for a long time. I was like thinking that's going to hurt, so I'm not going to do that, and that's going to hurt, so I'm not going to do that. Like I saw the actual physical representation of what physical therapy had done for me, because every time I would get a hip injection it was under x-ray and I can see my hip joint, and my doctor would point some things out and talk to me, and after going to physical therapy for like 2 months, maybe 3 months, and it was time for another injection, the spacing between my hip and the socket was like, had increased quite a bit, which is more normal.
So you were able to build trust because you could actually do your physical therapy and then see exactly how it was helping?
Yeah, and it was pretty drastic to me because after all the years of dealing with, like, I'm not a doctor, but I can kind of see on the x-ray what shouldn't be happening, in my own case anyhow. And it was pretty obvious that the physical therapy had helped.
Yeah. Did you struggle to do the exercises that they would send you home with?
Yeah, I would struggle to remember to do them, for sure. And
what helped with that?
Just having them, I'd have them print me off a piece of paper that was a list, and I'd put that where it was so that I would see it. And just practice. Over time, you kind of gets to be more routine. And as physical therapy helped, it was more like, you know, okay, I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
Because it's
it sounds like you being able to really see the x-rays and what it was doing helped you trust that. When and how did you decide you were going to be okay?
The pain and the suffering and the things that I was feeling and dealing with to be forced onto other people through my negativity, I took from that and decided I wasn't going to do that. And the easiest way for me to not do that was to just try and find the positive in everything that I dealt with. You know, the little victories that you get, and it's not as hard as it might seem. You can usually find some silver lining to just about everything. So,
and that's a powerful tool for not getting bitter and jaded or consumed by your condition, for sure. It's pretty cool that you're so aware that you were able to kind of take a step back and watch your dad and internalize that and make something beautiful out of that. What helps you feel better when you're having a flare-up?
It depends on the kind of flare-up. You know, sometimes getting up and moving around helps. Sometimes just relaxing helps. Just what I do now to make me feel better, which I know not everyone can do, is kind of just play with my kid. It's a distraction is usually pretty good.
What are you passionate about?
I'm passionate about being a good dad. That's the main thing I've got right now that I want to do well at in recovery, because I can't do one without the other.
Yeah, which we actually didn't talk much about this, but he is in recovery and he lives abstinence, right? Like completely a clean life with 0 drugs, and that includes alcohol, and so that's something to really applaud.
Yes,
that's huge too.
It's made everything easier and simpler, and life is a lot better. As far as being able to work through what's happening in my life or what's happening physically in my body, it happens a lot faster now. Before I didn't, you know, I would numb or just not even pay attention to what was going on. Yeah, it's definitely helped my life in a lot of ways.
What change do you want to see in the world?
Universal free healthcare would be a great change. Since I was disabled as a child and I live in the great state of Alaska, I've been covered my whole life, and when I think about all the different specialists I've seen and all the different surgeries I've had and what would have happened to me if I didn't have coverage for those things, and it's scary, and I know a lot of people don't. And
right, so it's something you'd like to definitely see happen.
Yes.
What do you do for self-care?
For self-care?
How do you take care of yourself?
Physical therapy. I really get a lot out of that, just trying to stay active. Between getting my first knee surgeries and then my knees replaced, there was years of mostly inactivity. And after I got my knees replaced, that main pain that I felt all day, I had a couple of years before my hips started to go. So I had some pain-free years there, but most of them were spent trying to recover from all the inactivity because my legs had atrophied. Even though I wasn't in pain, I was still limited, and it took a long time to get out of that.
How important is diet?
Try and eat healthy. I actually started when my wife was pregnant and she ended up with gestational diabetes. I started eating better, and I just noticed that I felt a little better.
There's something to this.
There is. I was informed that gluten can increase your inflammation markers, and so staying away from gluten was important for me. People have issues with inflammation. It's something that you should be aware of.
What's been your biggest achievement?
Getting clean is definitely one of my biggest achievements, and being a positive outlook on life and being able to keep a smile on my face even when it's hard.
You're wanting to go to school now.
I do, yeah.
And you want to look for maybe a career.
I think I would really enjoy being a teacher. There's a lot involved in that, but you know, I've got time. I would love to go to school.
Oh my gosh, you'd be a great teacher. What would you say to someone who's just getting their diagnosis?
It's going to be okay. They're going to be okay. And to really research and get to know your diagnosis and your disease process, because when you can learn how to communicate with your doctors, they might have gone to medical school and know, you know, a lot of technical stuff about medicine, but you're the only one that lives in your body. It's helpful if you can put words to what you're going through. Never had to try and say before.
To be your own advocate.
Yes, for sure. It's going to be hard to not isolate, and it's going to be hard to confide in the people that you love because you see pain on their face. You feel like you're causing them pain, but they love you and they want to help you and take some of that pain from you if they can. Your family close, and talk to them about what you're going through. Talking about what you're going through is helpful.
Support.
Yeah.
That's what I do. People don't have a close family or a
Right.
family that's like spiritually fit or able to be in a part of their lives, and then we get so isolated with our chronic pain. That's what I'm passionate about. That's why I've started my business. I'm like, this is ridiculous. I need to be there for people.
I think what you're doing is awesome. I mean, people can feel alone for a lot of reasons, but
Yeah.
that's, you know, just another one and a big one.
We need to feel accepted and totally need to feel like somebody believes us and
Yes.
believes in us.
I have experienced that where growing up, a few friends that I had didn't quite believe me, and you could just tell. Later they did, because I had my knees completely replaced and other things like that, but
Yeah.
it was tough.
If you guys want to get a hold of Pete, I'm going to leave a link with his email address. You can contact him, and he is more than willing to share his experience, his wisdom, any insight that he has. He's just willing to be there for you if you have a similar situation or dealing with chronic pain. Like I said, this is someone that I would go to if I needed any words of wisdom. Thank you for watching. We'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.